What are the myths? When should one adopt it? And what kind of methods should one adopt as well? Before we continue with our discussion, we understand that Violet Muhammad, who is one of the, we have a couple in the other studio, the wife, would like to ask our panel a question. Violet, go ahead.
Yes.
All right, if Violet and Fadhili can hear us, do you have a question for our panel?
Yeah, I have a question about the clash between the religious belief and conventional medicine about family planning.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there is a clash between religious belief and the methods that people use on family planning.
Okay. So you believe there's a clash and you want to understand where to draw the line. That's a good question, Fadhili. Let me throw that back to the panel and perhaps start with you, Dr. SK, if you could just keep it brief. The clash between religion and family planning, how is that resolved? Where does it begin to overlap?
There does not, to my knowledge, appear to be any clash between religion and family planning.
Even in the Catholic Church?
The Catholic Church especially teaches one thing very clearly, that every couple is called to be generous, have children, but have them responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
That is, have children that you are able to take care of generously. That's the teaching of the church.
Mm-hmm.
There can't be any clash. The Catholic wishes family to have an adequate number of children.
Is it right that the church, though, does tell women not to adopt methods of family planning? You're saying they can have children responsibly. Does that mean that they can and are allowed to use family planning?
Which family planning are you talking about? Are you talking about the white man's caricature of things that come to destroy the family? Or are you talking such as the coil, which I've seen a woman with one child inserted. When I was in medical school in the 70s, you couldn't put a coil in a woman who had less than 3 children because of the complications of the coil. Now they put them at one child. A woman becomes infected.
Yeah.
A woman
that
belongs
is wrong.
to
That is wrong.
Okay.
It's unacceptable.
Hang on. Okay, let's hear your response.
That,
then we'll come to you, doctor.
That's one of the myths of a health professional that should not be allowed to be aired on the national television. That family planning, as we had said earlier, any method is safe for any woman. Actually, IUCD or the coil is not associated with any infection. And there's a screening procedure that if a woman has multiple sexual partners and therefore she's at a risk of infection, then she's not encouraged to use that method. But even besides that, with the adequate counseling that people are given when they are coming to the family planning clinics, and they are told the early warning signs of anything that, any likely complication that could occur.
So that they know in advance.
They know in advance and they come to seek.
So are there
care.
Complications?
There is no complication worth talking about.
Okay, let me move to you, Esther. Are there complications?
No, most of the methods that are used for family planning are safe.
Specifically the coil?
No, the coil doesn't really have any complications. Most of them are actually myths, because when you go out into the community, you'll hear different types of myths about the coil. Some will say that it will travel up the body and leave the uterus. That does not really happen. And I think that's why it's very important to have the service providers really counseling the clients and getting the real information, so that clients don't just get information from their peers without consulting the healthcare providers who have the accurate and complete information.
It is very important to go to the medical eligibility criteria so that you actually counsel and score your clients accordingly. If you do that, then the chances of complication are minimized. And even chances of discontinuation. Sometimes somebody could experience a mild complication, but from the point of knowledge that this is occurring because of this, because they know that, then they are likely to continue using the method despite that hitch. And it is totally untrue for Dr. Karanja to say that the coil is associated with infection, with infertility. And look at the coils that we used to use in the 60s when he was in medical school. Those are not the coils we use we use digital coils.
You use digital coils.
I think,
so Dr. Karanja, what's the issue
I think the minister here is living up in heaven.
He's living?
In heaven.
He's living in
If
heaven.
he's living in Afya House. If he was living where I live, taking care of real patients, my patients come with chronic discharges. My patients come with infertility. They have one child with blocked tubes caused by coils. These may not come to Afya House, but the reality in this country is that the woman has been...
Can I correct
Hang on,
you?
one at a time.
Can I correct you?
What- okay, yes.
Okay. I teach at the University of Nairobi. And Karanja was taught in the same university. And there's no teacher or lecturer or professor in the obstetrics and gynecology who has taught him those things. These are things he picked from the streets. And it's not good to talk like this to colleagues.
Okay.
But
Okay.
by and large,
Yeah.
there's any patient who has been given any method is given the danger signs, the warning signs,
Of
if
each
there's
method.
any complication that will occur.
All right.
We have said any method is not 100% effective,
Yeah.
but if there is any complications, they're being told, yes, if you see this and that, come for your checkup. The other thing, you see some small things like pelvic pain. This is, of course, it's a foreign body. The body will try to reject it in the first 2 to 3 months. And therefore, when it's inserted, the person may be feeling some slight pain in the lower abdomen. But so long as you have been told and you have been reassured
You
of
will
these
continue using
complications,
the method.
you will continue using the method.
Okay, before I
And
come to the two, I just want to ask one.
And finally,
Yeah.
IUCD is one of the most effective methods of contraception. It's safe, effective form of contraception.
And I wanted to say something here.
And it is long term.
So that somebody does not forget, we don't live in a vacuum in the world. IUD was banned for 20 years because of infecting women. It was actually used for research in mammals and Africans.
Is there any family planning method, Dr. SK, that you would recommend?
Not I.
You don't?
Every human being is entitled to space children using common sense.
What is this?
What is this
What is
common
What
sense?
is
This
What-
now,
what-
now,
okay,
it's
sorry,
a
let him
beautiful-
finish.
This is a
Okay.
wonderful thing to ask, because family planning, as we know, sold by the white man in this country
Forget about the
to
don't be
destroy,
racist.
to destroy,
Okay.
to destroy.
There's no talk of
to
colors.
destroy.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's-
yes,
let's-
yes.
I want to
Let's
move-
not- let's not- let's not-
Can
let's
I
not-
answer?
I want to,
Speak, yeah.
okay,
No,
I want to
we
move
are
the,
not-
let me
This
move, I want to
is-
move, I want to move the conversation
Yes.
along, Dr.
Yeah.
SK.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to move the conversation along because we still really need to debunk a few myths, and we'll
Yeah.
come back to that very quickly. And you can step in for this. I can ask you, Esther, as well. So when you have issues where women have excessive bleeding, excess nausea, some people bleeding for up to 3 months at a time, what is going on in their bodies? And what do they need to be considering? What happens in a scenario like that? There's women who've said, I took up this family planning method, but I had excessive bleeding for 3 months, and I eventually stopped doing it. What did they do wrong? And what do they need to do in future?
I think as the Daktari had earlier explained, every client or every woman is unique in their own way, and they need to be treated as an individual. So when you're assessing this woman, and that's why we are saying it's very important for these women to go to a health professional so that they are assessed and then they're given the method based on the individual characteristics. Now, when a woman experiences such complications, or maybe such side effects, it's important for them to also seek the advice of the healthcare provider and find out what would be, what is the recommended, maybe the alternative method, because not all women react the same to different methods. Now, in case maybe a woman has very heavy bleeding, that can lead to anemia. So that means when she goes to the healthcare provider, you can be given another method.
And she should go immediately.
She should go and then get, because some of them, especially when the first 3 months, the body is getting used to this method. So some of these are likely to be experienced, but then they disappear with time as the body gets used to this method. So they can get other methods, even for the IUD. Now we have the hormone releasing IUD, the Mirena, which actually is very good because it doesn't even lead to any bleeding.
Okay.
And this
It really decreases the bleeding.
bleeding.
Dr.
And
Amos,
this-
how affordable are these family planning methods, especially for people in rural Kenya?
Family planning methods are very, very affordable, and the ministry has gone ahead even to put a line budget for procurement of family planning commodities. Like for this year, 2013-2014, we have 790 million Kenya shillings. And since that has happened since 2007, you can be able to get a fill-up of your pills, like, for example, at a cost of 20 shillings a month.
Those are for the pills, but for
Yeah.
some of the other ones, we're looking at 5,000, 7,000, 3,000, which isn't affordable to people
The
who
the most expensive method in the public health system will be female sterilization, and that is charged at about 1,000 shillings, because the government actually subsidizes these services to the people. And in fact, the government has gone ahead, and we have partnered with some stakeholders. We have a voucher system in some places where we can actually be able to identify those who cannot be able to afford, give them a voucher, they present to the facility, and they have the service at no cost to them.
Yeah.
So the methods are very, very affordable. And this is because of the support of the government and the stakeholders like UNFPA, USAID, and very many other partners.
How does technology play a crucial role with regards to adopting methods of family planning?
Science is always evolving, and there are many people who are doing research all over the world, trying to make things better, trying to make the easily used and much more effective with minimal side effects. And that's what the technology is doing. And of course, the other technology is the social media, which is a very good media of communication, that people can actually communicate the issues around their desires and the complications that could occur. But by and large, science is evolving. More methods are being used, especially in the West, where my brother is complaining about.
We'll give him a chance just now to explain himself.
But by and large, what people are saying is that those things should be made available and
accessible and affordable.
Yes, to the people.
We'll come back, Dr. SK. We'll give you a chance just now. We will just want to cross over again to Violet. She's going to ask us a question in Kiswahili. She's going to ask one of our panelists. Violet.
Aya, mimi wakati sikuwa nimeanza kutumia family planning, nilikuwa nasikia watu wakisema, yani ukitumia family planning, ukiweka coil itapotelea kwa mwili, ukidunga shindano utaanza kufurafura mwili. Sasa nikawa naogopa. Sasa nikawa nafuatanisha watoto ovyo ovyo. Nikawa nagonjeka, hata siwezi kula, nikawa sina nguvu, damu hata inaniishia kwa mwili. Juu ile nguvu nilikuwa nakosa hata ya kufanya kazi. Sasa wakati nikatembea kwa hospitali, nikaenda kwa madaktari, nikaona wakiongea kuhusu family planning, nikasikiza. Nikaona wacha nikakuja nikaambia mzee wangu iko hivi. Mzee wangu akasema uende uanze kutumia family planning. Nikaanza kutumia family planning sasa. Sasa nikaona at least family planning imenisaidia sana. Sasa siwezi kufatanisha wale watoto nilikuwa nafatanisha sana. Ninazaa wale watoto naweza kulea na naweza tafutia. Sasa naweza ambia wa mama wengine ama wasichana watumie family planning, haina madhara yoyote. Juu mimi nilikuwa naogopa, hakuna madhara nimepata, hakuna ile kufura mwili nimefura, hakuna sijui nini yenye nilikuwa nasikia unafura mwili, sijui utaanguka kizunguzungu, utableed, hiyo yote sijaona. Kwa hivyo
Violet, ulitumia gani?
Nilitumia shindano.
Shindano?
Ya miezi 3.
Okay. Asante sana. Okay, Violet giving us an account of her own story and how she ended up adopting family planning. The general consensus is that it is safe. Dr. SK, we want to come back to you. You were making a point. Just continue with that and try and make us understand in your own way. You seem hesitant to encourage people to adopt certain methods of family planning, which is fine because that's how you feel, but we need to understand exactly why. We really need to understand why, because there's people watching, and some of them have been fearful of using family planning for so long. This could be the make or break.
Yes.
So it's on you. So
Correct.
why? Why are you so against
I'm
this?
so hesitant because I dislike deception.
What sort of deception are you talking about?
Deception like this, like people talking on the television, sellers and promoters of contraceptives telling people that they have no complication, while every day we see two things. You see, there's a wonderful lady here who has not been affected by a product that was banned in the world 28 years ago and is used in Africa. But no African will stand up and say enough is enough, do not test it in our people. Yes, some people will not have complications, but the majority do have complications, and the injection itself is not in fact allowed in many parts of the world because of the complications.
Before you continue your point, I'll ask the three of you again,
Yes.
final time. Are there complications? Can people get complications?
There are no complications. Actually, family planning.
Yeah, okay, so there's no, okay, so let me go back
Coil.
to you, Doctor. What are you
Injection.
recommending? What do you recommend?
I'm recommending like this, that before 1978, when these things came here, our people were still having children. Then they were spacing children using common sense and using what God has written in
They
every
were
human
having
being.
8 children.
Let me-
Which is
let
what?
me
What do you
tell
mean by that
let me
when you
tell
say common sense?
Give birth
Common
every
sense
year.
is
Every
no,
year.
Okay,
no,
hang
no,
on.
no,
Let's-
no.
okay, let's
It's
see- let's
not,
hear him
it's
explain.
not responsible. And I would hope that people for once can start thinking rather than just talking.
Thinking how?
Thinking like this, that there is no creature, even a cow, made by God, not written in itself, when it can have a child. You cannot have a child every day. When a woman can have a child, she must be fertile.
Okay.
That is a biological fact.
All right, let me,
Now, let me follow it.
okay.
So, how does a woman know I can conceive today? Number one is that she will have an egg. Fertile egg stock.
All right.
They have talked for ages.
Doctor, I have to keep cutting you short because we need everyone to contribute to this discussion.
Yes.
Esther, what is your concern about what he's saying?
I think my concern about what Daktari is saying is that when you look at family planning, as an organization, we've been providing family planning for the last 50 years. And we've not seen clients coming to us with complications of family planning because they are using contraceptives. What these clients come and what the clients require is adequate counseling, and they are given the right information. They are given what are the warning signs in case you feel that you have any issue that's arising. And then when these clients are properly counseled, then they will come back in time. And most of them, if you counsel the client properly, and the other bit that has not been talked about is the male involvement, where
Yes.
the men are also encouraged to ensure that it becomes a decision for both the couple, not just one individual, because that support, for a long time, family planning has had a feminine face, and that's why sometimes we do not have men also promoting family planning. But now we've had men now on board, and where the men are actively involved, we've seen the uptake of contraceptives going up.
So it's
I think it's
changing.
more of a, yes, it's a decision, and for a family to have the number of children that they can take care of, because we are just not talking about the number of children, but we're looking at what's the quality of life. And it's good for us to also relate family planning and development and sustainable development.
In fact, maybe
Because-
Dr. Ahmad,
yeah.
could
Yeah.
you link those two for us?
But may I just,
Yes.
ask one question? Maybe we just one comment.
Yes.
Kizuri chajiuza, kibaya chajitebeza. If they have no complication, if they are good, why do you need counseling on top of counseling on top
It's
of
to
counseling
understand.
for what is good?
Okay.
They should present it, and people will just enjoy the damn good things.
I think it's more of an issue of making the client get an
Compliance.
informed choice, and also
Improving
make
compliance.
and then
And
the
he does that for his patients
Yeah.
for other procedures. I don't know why he does not do the same for family planning. Because what is important for the provider is to be able to give the client information so that the client can be able to make an informed choice.
Okay.
And once that is done, then you will not end up with the complications Dr. is talking about.
All right.
And it's important to link family planning with development because resources are not infinite. And if the numbers continue to grow, then we'll have a problem. Already, like now, you can see the population of Kenya where it is. And look at the poverty levels. If by 2030 we are at 60 million, are we going to be able to provide the health services we require? Are we going to provide the education that we require? Are we going to provide the infrastructure that we require for our people? I think this thing has been done and tested, and the verdict is there in the public domain. So I think the Kenyan people, the information we are giving you, and we have very good advocates like Violet. Please come to the facility.
And get
we'll give you the
information.
information, and you'll make a choice.
Let me
That's the
interrupt
way
very
forward.
quickly.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot of feedback on SMS, and I just want to read a few of the questions. There's someone here who he says, Emmanuel from Mombasa. Janet, my wife has been using the coil for a year now, but the side effects have been so bad. She can go through her periods for more than 3 weeks, and she's getting thinner by the day. We have resolved not to use the coil, but yet we don't know which one is better. So someone like this, as you've all said, needs to just go to
the provider
and understand what the complications are.
It might even not be anything related
to the family planning.
And she's not one.
Yeah.
That is millions of Kenyan women.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we have Jenny Nakuru. How does the morning after pill work? Is it effective after 48 hours?
The morning after pill is not a morning after pill. It's actually called the abortion pill. You use it the morning after meeting. Let me
Is that a
let me
that's a
finish.
milk?
Yeah,
Let me
that's
please.
That is
Okay, let him
another
finish. Let him finish,
Please
and
let
then
me
you can
finish.
step in.
Don't talk. When you meet tonight and you wanted to prevent pregnancy tonight, you should have taken the medicine tonight. But after you have met today, and you may have conceived today, the next morning, if you want to kill that baby, you take the abortion pill. That is the one they call morning after pill.
All right.
Now he can talk.
I wish my brother understands the mechanism of action of
the morning.
I do. In fact, I'm an
and if
expert
he
on that.
does it, he need not mislead the nation. The morning after pill, the conception,
Works by?
actually, when does the conception take
Works
place?
by-
Works by stopping
Works by-
ovulation.
Okay.
Stopping ovulation.
Let's
Period.
move on.
Use it.
We have to
Period.
move.
And thickens the cervical mucus
Mucus,
and other things.
yeah.
There's a whole science to it.
Yes,
Very
yes.
quickly.
Yeah.
Again, another misconception is whether the pills cause cancer.
Actually, the
it
pills
prevents
protect you
Prevent
from
cancer.
getting ovarian cancer and
endometrial cancer.
So they prevent you.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Wrong.
Hang
Wrong.
on, Dr. Esme. Hang on.
They don't.
And
We
really
need
for
to-
the morning after pill,
Okay.
before we leave that session, it is important to let the public know that frequent use of the morning after pill reduces its effectiveness.
It's
So
called an
if
emergency
someone-
pill.
Yeah, it's an
It's
emergency.
an emergency pill,
yeah.
and therefore it can only be used in emergency situation.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification. I'd like to go to our couple again. Fadili, you have a question for the panel. Go ahead.
No, it is not necessarily a question, but it is just a comment based on the discussion by what the panel has been talking about. I would like them to discuss something about socialism and capitalism. I think this family planning issue comes about as a result of capitalism issues that have been arising. Whereby socialism, if the resources can be shared equally, I think the problem cannot be there.
Okay. If the resources are shared equally, the issue would reduce. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, that's an interesting
that's a very
note to point. That's interesting.
That's
yeah.
a very interesting point of looking at it. Because the way we look at family planning is when you use family planning, financial resources and other food and other resources will be much more easily available to the people. There are things like illnesses like anemia, which results as a result of mothers becoming pregnant very frequently. The depletions, the maternal store being depleted is kind of minimized. The things like maternal mortality, the death of mothers as a result of pregnancy-related complications is also reduced. And things like infertility, the infection as a result of infertility as a result of pelvic inflammatory disease is reduced. But the point which he's saying is this. In the early 1970s, people had used family planning as, because the population growth is considered as a major threat to the world. When you talk of Kenya reaching a population of 100 million,
Yeah.
actually it will be the source of conflict in the world. And that may be taken as a capitalism approach. But that is a reality, that if we don't curb our population growth, for example, like in China, Shanghai, where one person is only having about 25 square meters to himself in Shanghai. I don't know how many meters we have to ourselves in this country.
Okay.
So those are the kind of thing that's happening. When population goes and it's not uncontrolled, there are many other socio-political elements that come
into play. I'm so sorry, we're really running out of time, and we need to get closing comments. Before we do, here's another one. I'm Catherine. Is it true that, or she's saying that I have a friend who was using the pill and she became extremely fat. Is that another side effect? A lot of women fear gaining weight.
I think she was so comfortable that she was eating and relaxed.
So it's not a direct effect.
No, it's a direct
I
effect.
think what happened, for estrogen.
I'll let you answer in just a moment.
Okay.
Dr. SK, let me let you answer in just a moment. Let
Yes,
Esther answer.
Yeah, depending on the pill that she was on, maybe if it had the estrogen, the combined pill, it has a tendency to increase appetite.
Okay.
But now what happens, because of the lifestyle, our lifestyles, when the appetite goes up, she goes for the unhealthy foods like the carbohydrates.
And then she ends up gaining weight.
And then ends up gaining weight. So it's actually not it's not actually because of the
I want to say this, and I want to say it very seriously, that this is in fact the deception that is happening from the providers of contraception in this country. They are lying to our people that they have no complications when our people are suffering every day from it.
So what do you recommend?
My recommendation is this.
Abstinence?
No. I want
Natural.
every person to be given the truth about family planning. 5 things. What are they? What are they made of? How do they work? What are the benefits? What are the complications? What are the consequences? And Kenyans are intelligent enough to make a choice, but they don't do that. They just hand them over, and then when they sit on a group like this, they say the patient is confused. The patient was eating well. The patient was eating what? No. There are thousands of women like these who come to us with hypertension.
Okay.
I think
these
Dr.
are
Karanja
our
agrees with-
closing comments. So
I think Dr. Karanja agrees with us that if you do a proper history, a proper examination of your client, then you can be able to let the client make an informed choice and therefore be able to take any method of family planning. In a nutshell, that is what he has said. Thank you.
No,
for
that's not what I've said.
your closing
No, that's
comments,
not what I've
please.
said.
Unfortunately, we need your closing comments. Esther.
Yeah, I think for me, family planning is one of the key pillars to achievement of the Millennium Development Goals and our Vision 2030. And as a country, we need to embrace it. And it's also one of the pillars to community empowerment, quality of life, and sustainable development.
Oh, I have a very quick question, sorry, before the final comments. If someone has a family of 13 children and they're happily looking after them and they're moving on with life, is that an issue, or should, you know what I mean? You're saying that we're looking at an example where, even as the doctor has said, we need to look at the population vis-a-vis where we're going as a country. But if there are people who can afford to have many children, would you still want to caution such a couple?
Not me.
Because of the
I would.
You would.
13 children from one woman?
Yeah. Okay,
There are
so
complications, yes.
Yeah.
Because with every subsequent,
Pregnancy.
why we are using the family
beautiful
planning is because we don't want women to get children too early, too late, when they are too
many.
frequent,
Too frequently.
and too many. Because all these have the impact
Consequences
on the health
woman's
of
health.
these women.
all right. I hope we've,
And
I
also
hope
for
we've,
the children,
I hope we've let you say your closing comments. 'Cause
Okay.
are you okay? Have you finished? Or do you want to add anything?
For me, I'm
All right.
advocating for us to use family planning because that one, if we use family planning, even the health of the mother, we are going to reduce maternal mortality and also under 5 mortality.
All right. Thank you, Esther.
thank
Dr. Amo.
Thank you, Janet. I think family planning is a very important aspect of health provision to our people and must be embraced. And we have put in place measures and the necessary steps to ensure that the services are affordable at the lowest level, at the community level. And people should be able to visit the health service providers, get the information, and make informed choices.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Amo. Your closing comments.
That we shall, as a nation, endeavor to give the women the best reproductive choices available to them, and that they should not shy away from using contraceptions. It's healthier for them, and it's good for the family and for the nation.
All right. Very quickly, Dr. SK, because we're completely out of time. You need to give us a few
should not-
seconds of
Yes.
your closing
They
comments,
should not
Doctor,
have been
please.
made-
Everybody to completely bow down and pray for Central Province, because they are destroying themselves. I wish one day they would know that getting that type of figure I saw here is suicidal for them.
All right.
They need the numbers. Number 2, this country is now of age. This advice they are getting from NGOs from outside, they must for now say enough is enough and think themselves and find out what is the best for our people and do what is good for our people, but not always parrot out what WHO, what UNFIPA, what everybody says.
All right, thank you.
Think ourselves.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Of course, we also want to thank our couple, Fadhili and Violet, so much for coming and talking about your story and sharing your experiences with us. We've got a lot of feedback, and I'll try and see if I can find any tweets that I can use. we'll see if we can understand the team has selected some tweets that can come up that I can read. Let's see if we can sample some of them. At Abraham Wana says, what can be done so that ordinary Mwananchi can have the knowledge of contraceptives and their side effects? I think that's been answered. There's certain policies that are going to be rolled out. At Nix 14 says, they say contraceptives lead to cancer. Is that true? That's also been discussed. Is there family planning for men? Interesting. That hasn't actually been addressed. We're going to ask just now. Apart from condoms, are there other methods of family planning safe for long-term use? That's from at Tharamba. And at MOZE, I think I'm probably sure I've mispronounced that. How can contraceptives be given to street children who engage in premarital sex, ending up with other young street kids? It's at Ichuloi says, is it true that most family planning methods are hormonal preparations which may result to actual hormonal imbalance? And then at Joel Ouma says, how should one plan for the family planning methods, or which ones should they adapt? I don't know if we have anything else. Okay, at Wesley Gisemba says, is it true that overuse of pills for family planning contributes to growth in the womb? And then the final one is at Ogara254, which method of family planning has no side effects apart from abstinence? Thank you so much for your tweets. The last question, family planning methods for men, do they exist? What are they?
Yes.
You're looking at
Yes, yes, they exist. They exist.
Okay.
That men have control of their body. They are not swung around by hormones. Men should not meet with their wives unless they are ready to have children.
Okay. The commonest form of contraception for men, which is very popular in India and China, one of the populous countries, is vasectomy.
Oh, vasectomy,
Yes.
okay.
That's the common.
Okay.
There are other researches which are going on in the world for hormonal contraception for men, but it has not yet reached the level at which it can be used.
All right.
And also
Sorry,
to
we
add
have
that
to
is
wind up
condoms.
completely. We're completely out of time. Sorry.
Condoms don't work. Condoms
Yeah.
do not work.
Condoms, okay, of course.
But who don't work? They don't work.
Okay. We could be here all night, clearly.
Yes,
But
they don't
look, I thank you all for your contributions, yourself as well, for that school of thought. Thank you all so much for coming. This is certainly something that we have to discuss. But I think what's really key is information and knowledge going out to people, especially those who are not equipped with that information and knowledge. So thank you all for your contributions. And thank you as well for watching Monday Special, for your tweets and SMSs.